we are here with Myles Katherine, a fantastic photographer and writer. And she has actually been in my writing workshops with me. So we just wanted to chat a little bit about what she's been up to, all the amazing things she's been doing with her writing. And we'll just go ahead and dive right in. Oh, before I do that, I just want to love on you, Myles, because number one, we got to know each other and I got to know your photography, many years ago. And you are like one of probably the most talented photographer that I know. I only trust Myles to take my headshots. So if you ever see like headshots around my website, those are most likely from Myles, and she's just like phenomenally talented and an artist. And that talent and creativity comes out so beautifully in your writing as well. So let's dive into talking a little bit about your writing. So before we started working together in the writing workshop, what struggles were you facing with your writing?
So many. I mean, I struggled with, feeling like I was a writer because I feel like, I'm just a photographer and that's my job and I'm not allowed to be anything else. So I think that was definitely a struggle, was trying to be like, okay, I am a writer. Like I can write, I can do whatever I want. I'm not like stuck in this category of being only a photographer. And I still feel that way, like even now. But I do feel like I'm getting to where I can call myself a writer. Like I feel, yeah, it's just been a struggle. I mean, I've always been interested in a lot of different creative things. Like, I paint, I draw and all this stuff, but like photography is my job. So it's hard to get past like that title. But yeah, and then also I was struggling with sitting down and just getting the work done. Like I think the idea of writing a book, which I've had this idea for about 10 years. I've tried, this is my third attempt at like trying to write the book. And I think for some reason, like this time, I guess, because I had more time on my hands because of the pandemic and everything, that I was able to really focus. But also like your class just helped me so much organizing my thoughts and breaking it all down into smaller goals. Because the thought of like, I want to write a book is such a giant concept. It's like, what am I thinking? Am I crazy? Like I sit down and I'm like, I can't do this. Like I can't write a book. And so I think just all of your steps and breaking it down into really small, like realistic goals, that was like a huge game changer. And yeah, actually today I wanted to show you, that was why I was like 1 minute late to the phone call. But I went to FedEx and I printed it out.
Oh my gosh, your book.
This is the first time. Yeah, this is the first time I printed it. And here it is.
Yay! Oh my gosh, congratulations, Myles. This is also Party Popper. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for showing me that. I'm like so lit up right now and so excited for you. That's awesome. And that kind of just like dives right into my next question, which is what specific transformations have happened for you over the last few months? And that is totally a clue to one transformation. So yeah, share.
It's like, honestly, I still don't believe that I like did it, like that I wrote it. I don't know. It's just I got into this routine and I didn't let myself break it. Like, so Monday through Friday, I sat down and I did not stop. I did not skip one weekday. So Monday through Friday were my writing days. And I think I started whatever the first week of our workshop was. I think it was June something. So I guess it's been kind of like 3 months, of just like every weekday writing. And my original goal was 250 words a day. I was like, okay, I can write 2 paragraphs, like whatever, that's like, I can do that. But then I increased it because every time I sat down to write, my stories ended up being about 1,000 words to 2,000 words sometimes, and usually just always in that ballpark. So every day I'd sit down and write a whole story because I didn't like to stop my train of thought. And I was surprised by how quickly, like I usually sat down for about an hour, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter if it was like really flowing. And some days were hard, and some days, like there were weeks where I was like, I feel like this entire week I did not write anything good. And then there were weeks where I was like, the stories are just pouring out of me, So it's just been a very interesting experience. And it's been like emotional too, because the story is kind of like a memoir, but it's kind of stories about my life. So there have been days where I've cried, and there are days where I'm like, happy and thinking about happy memories, but it's been like kind of this insane journey. But like I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I just can't believe that I've like actually done it. It's kind of insane.
It's amazing. And can you tell everybody, so this is the first draft of your book is finished, and how many words did you end up with that routine?
It's about 110,000 words, which is crazy. Um, and you know, like sometimes I would write like on my phone in the evenings if I had like an idea or something. Like I didn't stop myself from writing if I wanted to, but like I still didn't feel like I had to sit down for 8 hours a day. It wasn't as grueling as I thought it was going to be. Like when you break it down into those small goals, you're like, I can handle a little bit every single day until I'm done. And that's how you have to look at it. Because when I was looking at the whole picture, I was like, wanted to throw up. Like I was like, this is so terrifying. But I try not to look at the end goal. I was just trying to enjoy the process. And like, I've been wanting to do this for 10 years. I've been wanting to sit down and write stories. I just had to figure out how to get it out, you know? And I think that's where your class really helped a lot. Seriously.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, Myles, I can't even like my joy is just overflowing for you. I can't wait to see your book in bookstores and just to actually be able to like it's just such a cool thing to be able to hold it in your hand. So I'm so happy for you for that. Awesome. So okay, so when you were so clearly like writing a book, I know like so many issues around or struggles around the actual craft of writing can pop up, like where you're like writing something and you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense, or like this feels flat, or whatever actual craft struggles start to come up. How what struggles were coming up for you while you were actually in the art of writing, in the process of writing?
Yeah. I think just like the very beginning of getting into it, because I haven't written, like sat down and written anything since college. So that was 2011. So that was, how long ago was that? 9 years ago that I like wrote an essay, you know, like I haven't written since then other than journaling. So getting back into the flow of like sentence structure and, you know, like I've always enjoyed writing. Like I've always liked writing papers and stories. But yeah, getting back into that like academic kind of mindset was really difficult in the beginning. But then I was like surprised by how quickly I kind of jumped back in. And there was definitely like every single day I would have moments where I couldn't think about, like my brain was like not working. You know, you're like at home all the time. Like it's hard to turn your brain on right now. And so like I'd be like, what is that word I'm thinking of? And it would take me like 10 minutes to like, you know, think of this one specific word. So I'd have to have like thesaurus.com pulled up all the time, 24 hours a day, because I was like, I cannot think of the word. And then once I did that more and more, my brain started clicking more and like remembering these things. But yeah, it kind of took me a little while to get back into that like mindset of writing just like academically, I guess. So yeah, that was interesting.
I love that. Yes, and you're total. And I just love your story too, and like the fact that you have a finished book after the year 2020. Like you know, you even started it in the middle of 2020, and you have your first draft done, which is like mind blowing. It's amazing with just little bites each day, 250 words a day. And I totally lost my train of thought. I'm just so excited for you. Like it's just awesome to be able to, oh, that's what I was going to say, is to be able to do that under the stress and fear and uncertainty of the pandemic and the unrest that we're experiencing in 2020 is such a feat. And I'm sure it's also been a solace for you to be able to like kind of retreat into your writing in such a tumultuous time. So I'm just so proud of you and honored to know you for that, because it's pretty awesome. So I know when we were working together in workshop, you did get some feedback specifically on your writing. So how did that kind of help you keep going, or help you, and did any transformations happen from actually getting feedback and having other people look at your writing?
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing that happened with having you, like you were the first person to really read it. I was super nervous. I didn't know like what kind of feedback you were going to give. Like, I think the biggest thing is like are my thoughts translating into stories the way I wanted them to be translated to? Like, do I totally suck at writing and my message isn't coming through at all? Like, that was my biggest fear. But then when you gave me your feedback, it was like, oh my gosh, like my ideas are coming through. She's seeing exactly what I want to see. Like, yeah, there are things I need to fix and tweak and stuff, but my general overall like concept and like vibe, I guess, of how I wanted people to kind of feel my work, that came through. And so that was super exciting. And so then it gave me more like encouragement to keep going and be like, okay, I can keep going. I can keep growing throughout the process and writing more stories that, like, I feel like I definitely got better and better and better as the whole thing went on. Like, I feel like my later stories are better than my earlier stories. So it's going to be interesting going back and editing and reading through what I wrote in the beginning and seeing how it compares to the end. Like, I know I have a lot of editing to do, but still, you know, I like organized. So I wrote all these stories. They're basically a bunch of short essays. And then I wrote them all randomly. And then like this past week, I had to chronologically organize them in the way that they like happened in my life. And so that was interesting. I think it's going to help mix it up and kind of have like my later essays mixed in with my earlier essays. So I think that'll kind of be like an interesting blend, but we'll see. I have no idea.
Yes, I love it. And I just want to also reemphasize for anybody watching or reading this that you did not, you know, I remember we were emailing back and forth before you joined the workshop, and you said you didn't feel like a real writer. And to go from that place to, and yeah, and I don't think we ever get to this place of like feeling 100% secure. I'm a real writer. Like, I own it, you know. Maybe we do, but I don't I don't know a lot of people who do. But to go from that place of really doubting and just wondering like, can I do this, to holding a finished draft in your hand of like 100,000 words is like so awesome. It's just so cool. So I definitely just wanted to people to know that. So that I also feel like was a big hesitation for you to even, you know, sign up to work with a writing coach like me. What would, so I know, and I know you had other hesitations too, but what would your advice be to someone thinking about jumping into a workshop or working with me or any writing coach in a program?
I just feel like if you're thinking about taking the class at all, like that means that you have something that you want to write or that you have something you want to share. And so like you just need to do it, you know, like, yeah, it's scary and you don't know what you're getting yourself into, and you don't know if you're a writer, you know. The fact is that you're feeling that you're researching this, you're looking into these classes, you're like, oh, I might want to do this. And that means that you do have something you want to write. And I've known I wanted to write this for a long time, but I just never imagined myself actually sitting down and doing it. Like, I was like, oh, I'll do that later. I'll do that when I'm 50. I'll do that whenever. Like, but you know, it just keeps bubbling up in you until you reach a point where you're like, okay. And then the pandemic happened, and I was like, if I don't do it now, like when I have this free time, like my work was entirely shut down. I didn't have any jobs at all. And so I was like, now is the time. Like I started off 2020, like I have like this planner, and it was like, what are your goals for 2020? And one of them was like, start my book. And there's a couple other ones, but I was like, okay, I want to start it. It was just like something that I hoped that I would get to, you know, like I never thought that I would actually sit down and do it this year. But it just happens that way, and I had this time. Like, I'm really grateful that I had this time. But also, you know, it's hard because you're dealing with the like anxiety of everything that's happening in the world. But honestly, I think it was a really good distraction for me because it gave me something to like occupy my mind with every day and like kind of go into another world, because it's just like, who wants to be in the world right now? But yeah, so it's kind of a nice, and a lot of my stories are about travel. So like, some of my stories would be like, I'm in Greece or I'm in Paris, like things that have happened in the past. And so it's been kind of really fun to like really like dive in and be somewhere else. So yeah, I think it's therapeutic.
Totally.
For sure.
Totally. I completely agree. And I've heard that from other students of mine too, that once they got into the flow and the rhythm of writing, it was truly a solace for them and a place to kind of retreat. Not that we want to completely retreat from the world, but it did provide some relief in that way. So I love that. Awesome, Myles. Thank you. So last thing, can you share, because you're a phenomenal writer. I'm so excited for your book. you're also a phenomenal photographer, and that's your business. So can you tell people about where they can find you, where, if they're in your area, how they can work with you, or anything that you'd like to share with folks?
So I live in Richmond, Virginia, but I mean, I'll travel for work whenever we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But my website is myleskatherine.com. And my Instagram is at myleskatherine or at the Traveling Holga. And I have a couple other Instagrams, but you'll be able to find them through those too. But yeah, so I mean, I'm down to do any kind of photo shoots if anybody wants to hire me.
She's, oh my gosh, the best photographer. She's my go-to girl for sure. And just to follow for inspiration, because you're not just you don't just do weddings or portraits. You also are a creative photographer. You also create art with your photography. So you're just so multifaceted. I love that.
Yeah.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you so much, Myles.